Hey everybody, it's Mike for Fair Day Research. It is our live webcast tonight. It is Friday night, May 10th, 2024. Welcome to the show. And we got Philip with us, we got Mike, and we also have a new member of our cast tonight. His first time on. He's, I guess, stepped away for a second, Mr. Zach. He actually lives not too far from me. And we kind of hooked up and we've been corresponding for the last month or so. And I'm glad he's on. I think he just stepped away for a second. But so I guess the big headline tonight is the big solar storm that's going to hit North America. I live in just outside of Toronto, and Philip, I think you're going to be able to see it too. It's going to be coming through the northern hemisphere from basically the North Pole, and they say it's going to, I believe, go down as far as Ohio or New York. So they might be able to see this event too. And we got Lulu on with us too.
Hello,
Hey,
everyone.
hey
Hi.
Lulu, how are you?
Hello.
Good. Hi,
Great,
Phil.
great.
Mike.
Yeah.
Yep. So we're just kind of getting started here. We're just talking about the big solar event that's happening tonight, and hopefully later when I go up for my usual smoke break, I might be able to see something and take some pictures. So
Yeah, I'll
yeah,
check it out. I'll check it out downtown Montreal to see if
yeah,
it's
it's supposed to be. You're supposed to look in the north, so
okay.
magnetic north, northeast, and that's where it should be coming in from.
Okay.
So yeah, yeah, interesting to see. I seen a really good one about 2 years ago, and it was about 4 a.m. in the morning, and the whole sky was just lit up like neon green. It was like just out of like a movie, It was incredible.
Okay.
So
I was wondering why it's so pretty today outside. It's so
yeah.
pretty.
Well, what happened was there was 5 CMEs, coronal mass ejections from the sun in the last 24 hours. The last one was an X 3.42, I believe, or 3.43, which is small, but it's still an X flare. That's a coronal mass ejection, and it's headed towards us right now. Actually, I think it's starting to hit our ionosphere right now as we speak. So as the night goes on and it gets darker out, you'll be able to notice these lights in the sky that are going to look like bluish green, and they're going to kind of shimmer, and you'll actually see some kind of variation, some movement in the actual glowing. So yeah, it's really cool. When you see one, it's really kind of surreal when you look at it. It looks something that you see in a movie. So
Yeah, and again, I try to go
It's like
next to the
the
water to next to
is
the
it like
water
the
to see
North
if I can see
Pole
something.
auroras?
yeah, you're going to look in the northeast of the sky. So if you have a compass on you or an app on your phone where you can find true magnetic north, that's where you're going to be want to look. So north northeast. So as
Okay.
far as I know, Lulu, I don't think you're going to be able to see it. You're too far south. You're in Texas. I think as far as it's going to go is New York and Ohio. So I could be wrong. You never know. You might luck out and see something, but as far as I know, it's just going to go like halfway down the U.S. to like Ohio, maybe Kansas, maybe. But yeah, so I guess we'll get into the the show here. Yeah, just a little update on my batteries. They're still working. They're still putting out power. They're keeping the LED lit up, and yeah, so it's showing me electret type properties to this battery. So there's one other element I want to add to the mix that'll be coming up probably in the next month or so when I get some cash together. I got to get one more element and make a new batch and see if that improves capacitance in the cell. But other than that, the battery is completely dry cell. There is no electrolyte in this battery. It's a dry cell battery, which makes it unique all in its own. So I've been working on that for the last couple months, and I'm getting some pretty cool results. So I'm gonna keep up with that. Philip, you have any major thing going on?
Yeah, actually, by the way, I'm gonna meet an important investor next week. I'm going to London, UK. So next week, it's a little bit last minute, but I'll be able to boost my company seriously. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know,
and
I know you. I know you've been working on it for a while, but yeah, things like that when it comes to funding and getting people interested, that takes time.
yeah, but
So
I did an email blast 2 weeks ago, and three investors replied, and now it's getting serious, I guess.
that's
So
good.
yeah,
Awesome.
and
It's great to
another,
hear
and,
that.
yeah, thanks. Another thing I wanted to share, like I was saying on the messenger earlier this week, I figured that the speed of light is not constant, contrarily to what they teach
Yeah,
in school. That the speed of light is constant regardless of the frequency of the photon and things like that. That's not true. That's not true at all. And I've got high school algebra to prove it, and some video. If
yeah.
you like this.
I recently just watched a video. I'll talk about it after you're done. But Eric Dollard, I'll tell you what I've learned from him. What he's talking about the sun, that it's an arbitrary constant, and they just use it as a figure to go by, even though that it does fluctuate.
Yeah,
And some of the unique aspects of the sun that a lot of people don't know about, and a lot of what they've been teaching us in academia and schools and grade schools and all that is completely false.
yeah,
And he's been researching. He did research on it for 7 years out of one of the big universities in California. And yeah, so I'll get into that later. So just carry on. Sorry, Phil. I
I
ramble.
mean, that makes sense because there's time dilation. If there's gravity, time dilates. So the speed of light would also,
It's no
is
different.
measured by
yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
That's
yeah,
exactly true, Lulu.
yeah.
But
So
there's a frequency as well that plays a role in the speed of light.
Mm,
I'll present something right now.
yeah,
Just give me one sec. Share screen. Window. Uh, why is people calling me when I'm live?
yeah. That's what I I get that problem too. I always call my parents before I go online because I know my
Uh,
mother's gonna call me,
uh,
right?
Hey, is this
sorry.
about the light speed or about the mystery of light?
Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yep.
yes,
So you know the dispersion when the light is being fragmented, well, split into a rainbow when it crosses
Prism,
a different
prism.
medium.
It's changing frequency when it does that.
Yeah, well, I mean, when the white light with multiple frequencies enters a prism, then
There you go.
it's gonna have dispersion
Right.
where the different frequency are split at different angles.
Right.
So I tried to. I was thinking quickly about that last weekend, and um, I also saw a video here. I'm not gonna play that video, the whole video, because it's you might have copyright issues. But basically, what he's saying is they've been testing the speed of light from supernovas exploding far, far away, like billions of light years away, and they measured the time and they measured the exact time when the photons of different frequencies are arriving here on Earth. So they measure a shift of a few seconds, but they just throw that away. There is a shift, but they just they just say, oh, it's not important. So I'll let the guy speak.
Light traveled for all that time, and the different wavelengths all arrived within a few seconds of one another. Let's think about what that means. 7.4 billion years is about 200 quadrillion seconds. The initial arrival times were all within 2 seconds. That means the various different energy photons, which means frequencies of light, all arrived with a difference of no bigger than 1 part in 100 quadrillion. That's unfathomably small. That's like measuring my height with a precision of about 1/100th the size of a proton, or if you're in astronomy.
Yeah. So anyway, so here's the evidence. There is a difference, but they just uh, brush it under they just brush it onto the carpet. You know, they just
Yeah, they just
Okay.
don't want to recognize it.
yeah, exactly.
It's
So
it's typical of them, and they've been doing this since day one. That's the
yeah,
problem.
and I measured using simple. Can you see my equation here?
Yep.
Okay.
It seems like the matter is splitting up the frequencies, the matter of the crystal or the glass.
Yeah. So, but just one sec. I just want to say something. I did basic calculations here, and you can see that I did the same maths, and I calculated the index of refraction in vacuum, and I applied the distance of 7.3 billion light years. And I calculated a difference of 64 seconds between red light and violet light. So they measure a difference of 2 seconds. I measure with simple algebra, a quick algebra.
You said milliseconds or seconds?
That's seconds, 64 seconds.
Seconds difference
That's like over
between
a minute.
violet and infrared?
Yeah, between a frequency of red light and violet light, I
There's
calculated the
64-second
difference.
difference?
Yeah, I
large
calculated a
gap,
difference of 64 seconds, and they say that they had a difference of 2 seconds. So that's not very far away. I'm not very far away with simple algebra from what they observe. And so there is a difference between the speed of light at different frequencies, but they just brush it away. You know, they just that's not important, but it is important. It
Well,
overflows.
what is the science
overflows.
behind the glass and how it actually does what it does with the light? Does anybody ever get
Yeah,
that part figured out?
that's what I'm saying here. If we go back to the prism, that's because the speed of light is different for different frequencies, and it's more important through a prism. That's why
So the glass, is it the shape or is it the material?
No, it's the any material
Geometry?
that can have some refraction index, and within that material, the frequency. If you use a different frequency, then it's going to disperse at the different.
So the
angle.
material will slow down the light.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
slows down
exactly. Yeah, because if you're traveling millions or billions of
And by
miles through
slowing down the
space,
light, it actually filters out. It segregates the frequencies within the light.
Yeah.
like you might be able to get speed of light. Say, if I were to shine a light from me to Philip, okay, in line, and we were able to get that close and actually shine a light at each other. Okay, yeah, it's going to be the speed of light because there's no obstructions in front of us. But if you're traveling billions of kilometers away in outer space, you got matter. There's matter in space. So anytime a photon hits any of that matter, it gets dispersed and it's going to slow it down, but by maybe a very fraction of a tiny bit. But depending on the distance, that could be several minutes or several thousand kilometers an hour slower, right?
Exactly.
Which-
So they measure a shift.
And obviously, water behaves the same way as glass.
Yeah, exactly. Water or like some gas chamber as well. They measure the same thing with a gas chamber, that the speed of light of different frequencies travel at the different speeds. and
Or
that's why the angle is
vibrational
different.
rate, you mean?
Yeah, that's why the angle of refraction is of the diffraction, sorry, is different for different frequencies. That's because the speed is different at different frequencies.
Yeah.
That's why. That's why the angle is different.
Yeah. Just to let everybody know, our live chat is open. So if you have any questions, comments for our panel, please log into the live chat there, and I'll post your comments on the screen.
See, there's a thing, you know, people don't understand is that there are stars that are out there that are showing nothing but dark, even though they're bright as any other star. They're just so far away that the vibrational light
Well,
wave does not saturate within range of
okay, I kind of
vision.
I kind of touched on this last
Not your
week.
vision, but vision. Period.
Yeah. I kind of touched on this a little bit last week. I listened to the whole interview with Dollard about the sun. He says you cannot see the sun in outer space. It is the second that the photons hit our atmosphere, gives us an image of a sun in the sky. But he says from out in free space, in outer space,
Jesus.
with no atmosphere, you cannot see the sun or any star. Now, if you're sitting on a large body like the moon or the earth, yes, you will be able to see, because even though the moon is, well, pretty well barren, there is still a slight atmosphere there that allows you to see it. So, very interesting. And the other thing he said that just blew my mind was everybody thinks the sun is a solid object. It's not. He says he did research on the sun for 7 years when he was at RCA, and everybody from RCA was pretty well convinced that the sun is hollow.
Oh, yeah.
So when you get a coronal mass ejection, you get a sunspot. That sunspot is where counter space is. He says nobody knows how the sun works. Now, the fusion events that happen, because everybody thinks it's helium and all this stuff that make the reaction on the sun, he says nobody knows for sure. He says the only place that would happen is at the top of the sun, or on where, I guess you could say, not directly in the plasma, but just outside the plasma, you'll get electrical effects, fusion effects, stuff like that. But what makes up the sun, nobody knows. And if they say they do, they're lying. Nobody knows.
I heard a good explanation once as to what one group of people theorized the sun is. I'm not sure which group it was, but it made a whole lot of perfect sense. They said that it's basically a scalar wave that's moving in an AC pattern, which creates the sunset and the sunrise. Is the AC sine wave, sunset, sunrise. And they said that where the light is created is the focus point of that scalar wave, basically the center point of the scalar wave, which the center point is always moving around in a figure eight or something like that. So it's oscillating.
It's not a flat earther thing, is it?
The focal point is oscillating within the spiral eight or whatever sine wave you got. It's a closed loop, man.
Nobody
Or
knows
whatever.
how
It's
nobody knows how the sun works. If Eric Dollard's saying nobody
That's
knows
just a theory. I
how
thought it was a good one. That's all.
yeah, it's only a theory until you could actually get right beside the sun and actually maybe try to penetrate the surface. Nobody knows what it is, and anybody who says they know what it is,
Right.
they're lying to you. You know,
Yeah.
I won't give academia that much credit.
What about
anymore,
the film of the people have filmed an orbit, have filmed the sun? What about that?
it still don't know. It doesn't explain what's inside. They cannot
fake
prove.
film. Is that a fake video? I mean, because they filmed the sun in orbit.
No, you can actually take pictures of the sun from Earth, but from outer space you can't unless you have a special.
You can still see in high orbit.
To a point. The atmosphere is what really makes the sun from invisible, because it's infrared light. And when infrared light hits our atmosphere, that's when you get the image of sunlight and projects that light on us. That's when the photon becomes active, that we can see in our visible spectrum. Because know that new solar telescope that they have up there, the really big one. Well, that only infrared measures on that device. It doesn't really focus on the visible spectrum. It only does infrared and other spectrums under the visible spectrum that we can't see. Because, you know, like
So
if we were.
Atmosphere refraction. That's what it would be, right? Like our atmosphere is refracted. Yeah.
Dispersion, yeah.
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 Yeah, it's a reaction with the atmosphere is what gives us the, you know, the light that we see in the sky, right?
Yeah.
But like on the International Space Station and the Space Shuttle, they got filters on the windows so you can actually see the sun. It's a special filter covering that they put on it, that visible, you know, infrared.
It makes the spectrum visible.
Right. Exactly.
Huh.
Yeah.
So they want to be able to see the sun.
Well, they do it for
so
no, they do it. No, think about it this, though we'll get a little conspiratorial about it. They put it there specifically to make people think you can see the sun in outer space when you can't.
You're kidding me.
Yeah. Yeah, NASA. Come on. Yeah, do I see it anymore? How many times have NASA lied to us? Thousands of times.
Hey, you know, I learned a few.
I don't believe anything that
I know magic can fool people, so
I don't believe anything that NASA talks
it's just
about.
a trick.
I really don't. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, so the other cool thing was I'll just share it again. Just one sec.
All NASA is, in my opinion, is a front for. Well, no, it's a front. It's a front for the military-industrial complex to launch their secret satellites and secret spacecraft by using the shuttle, and that all ended.
Yeah, they want to manipulate they're doing social engineering on the academia because it's easier to control this way. It's easier to control, and so that the academia doesn't breach.
Do you want this up still, Phil? Do you still want this up, or do you want it off?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that they're able to create star power on Earth. It's pretty cool. I think they're able to. Some Princeton physicists are able to create the same amount of power of a star in a laboratory. And
right,
that's
when you hit
cool.
the temperature, it stays that temperature.
Yeah, that's pretty cool because if we can create, because to create, I calculated that to create force fields and tractor beam, you need the energy of a neutron star. But I mean, if we're able to create star power on Earth, then I think it's a first step forward.
I don't think that's a good idea because once you start creating that temperature, it holds that temperature unless you can keep it small enough to where it doesn't heat up the planet.
Yeah, exactly. What they're able to use to contain it within a tokamak, I think. Yeah, tokamaks here. So yeah, I think that's pretty awesome. That's something I want to share here.
As long as it's not too big, I'm saying, because you know the bigger it is, the more heat it adds to the planet. I don't know if that's bad or good. I mean, if we're going into an ice age, I say build a bunch of them. You know?
Yeah, but they're
trying
to create. They're trying to create a good energy source. You know that they can convert that type of energy into electricity or something like that.
How big are they going to make the tokamak chamber? How big is that going to be?
I'm not sure. I didn't read the full the whole article, so on technical details. But yeah, I'm just saying it's something cool I want to share here.
What are they going to use to keep what kind of material is going to hold the heat?
It's a It's a magnetic field that contains the plasma.
Oh, the plasma is what they're going to keep lit, not
Yeah.
like metal or something.
Yeah, some plasma of some material that
So
is
titanium,
contained
that would
within a
melt.
magnetic field. We can't hear you, Mike.
Sorry, I had my mic up. Zach, are you still there? Your microphone's off.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, yeah. So this is Zach. We've been corresponding for about a month, right, Zach?
Yeah, I was just pulling up my modeling program.
Oh yeah. Did you have anything you wanted to add to our conversation, or anything you're working on you want to show, or?
Well, I posted something in the private chat. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Okay, private chat.
You did
okay.
the calculations pretty quickly.
Oh yeah, physical 3D dimension threshold, 333,000 hertz. Yeah.
Yeah, and at the bottom.
It's close to light, no?
Well, at the bottom, Robert Edward Grant, he showed the 33-degree part. I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah, so Zach's been working on some interesting coil designs. I think you should, hopefully Gerald will pop on tonight. I sent him an invite, so hopefully he'll jump on. But I think you and Gerald should talk, because he's done some pretty amazing coil designs, anti-gravity stuff, and yeah, definitely you guys would definitely hit it off pretty good, I think.
Yeah.
When we figure out why this topic is so interesting and unavoidable, the light and the time travel thing, that's when we'll figure out how the light and the time of travel thing work. Is when we figure out why it's so unavoidable to talk about. It's like,
yeah, and the other thing too is what they're teaching in school is wrong. This is part of the problem. You know, it's like indoctrination to myths. You know, when they don't even, they say they know how the sun works and yada yada, and the sun's solid. It's all BS. They don't know. Nobody knows. You know, the closest.
In ancient times, they say that it's actually a portal. It's like, you know, it's hollow, but somehow it still radiates energy.
It is hollow. What Dollard says, what Eric Dollard's saying is, yeah, it is hollow. That was pretty much established by RCA back in the early 70s.
How did they establish that?
I honestly, I don't know, but you know, it was a very well put together laboratory, like not like Bell Labs, but they were pretty established, and they knew that the sun and the way it reacted to certain things that they were doing, that proved to them in their research, which they could never present to regular academia, because you know it doesn't meet their requirements. You know what I mean? To say, oh yeah, the sun's hollow and what's inside the sun is counter space. That's what Dollard's saying.
You know, like with the Ohm's law, you got to convert voltage into current. By sacrificing voltage, you turn it into current. Do you suppose light's the same way? You gotta transform it or convert it, give up something that it becomes now light by giving up something else.
See, that's exactly it. You're right. You're correct. See, Dollard calls it a converter. He says the sun is a converter or a transformer.
Since they need to use these special lenses just to make it visible, it's almost like there's some kind of conversion going on here.
That's right. It's a converter.
Fusion.
Between
fusion.
Frequency ranges and frequency areas, frequency locales, local areas. You know, like every area has a different frequency, so maybe you have to, you know, use another frequency just to be able to view outside your own frequency. Maybe we can't even see past our own solar system or frequency.
Yeah, we can. We can't. We can't see very far at all.
I mean, this whole thing about filtering NASA filtering to see the sun, and that whole thing was suggests what I just said.
Oh, did you guys hear that they had to shut down Hubble?
Oh, they
Like
shut it down? Oh, yeah,
yeah,
it'll probably get
like-
blasted.
Yeah,
It's probably
we-
getting
Because of the solar flares?
No, they shut it down like a week ago for malfunctioning of, like something's wrong with it. So they like shut it down completely. Like, amount of data we're losing because it's shut down.
Well, you know what? It is pretty old. That's understandable.
Oh, gee.
Who knows? The sun's been. I kind of tracked the sun in the last week, and it's been pretty active. So who knows? Some particles could have hit Hubble and caused some more issues that forced them to shut it down. So that's totally understandable. They're saying the International Space Station, they're going to decommission it by 2030. It's done. They're going to let it fall back to Earth. So,
Are they going to replace it with anything?
well, I don't know how many billions of dollars this one cost, and they don't have a vehicle to bring it up. That's the thing. The best thing they have right now is SpaceX, and I don't think SpaceX is equipped to actually haul something that big up into space, where the space shuttle could, right? So
Why
yeah,
not
I don't.
deconstruct it and reform it for something else? The materials are up there. That would be the stupidest thing if they let it crash down to Earth. Like it costs billions of dollars to take those parts up there. Like
Of course.
yeah, like it doesn't make sense for them to let it crash.
Yep, that's NASA for you. Money go
Well,
up in smoke.
they could say they're going to crash it and then never crash it and use all the material, but then they have an excuse to ask for more money now. We had to crash it.
They just let it fall
We
back
need
through the
to build a
atmosphere.
new one.
The money that they get is not on the books. Like their
I know.
money is, it's like, okay, the Treasury Department prints money for public use, but for like exploratory sciences, like such as NASA and space, that doesn't come through the economic counting of money in for the public.
Know what the military budget was for the United States last year? $855 billion. $855 billion.
You know what I really think? I think they're like big generals, old generals, but they're still in the mentality of little kids. And it's for them, it's like, oh, let's build this and let's build that. We have the authority, so why not? And I think they just build toys, in the sense of
well, they come up with reasons to have to build something, and if it
just so they could play with it. That's it.
Hey,
we're going to crash the space station.
Here's an idea. I just came up with it now. Why don't they take that $855 billion and give it to inventors like us that actually want to do something good with it?
Yeah, it's like Dejan was saying on APEC. It's like the engineers that take all the risks. They can have patents, and the patents can be confiscated if it threatens the national security and stuff like that. So they can just do what the government can do, what the hell they want to do. And
NASA is not government, though.
Yes, it is.
No, it's private.
No, it isn't. No, it's government run.
You know why, right?
Private money funded.
Phil, you know why they don't give like engineers or scientists, a lot of money? Because at the end of the day, science will peak to a point where the scientist has control over everything just by using science.
Yeah.
Using science and let's say technology in combination, you could like cut down any,
Well, what do you think?
Any department, like,
what do you? The prime example would be Einstein. They protected him because he had the right narrative that they wanted.
Well, let's not dwell on
the rest of
spam.
But the whole Einstein thing, was pretty much crushed back then. But they propped him up. They made him basically untouchable. And
the best way to manipulate society is through fear and confusion. And Einstein was being used to create confusion in the all of maths.
Of
Created a
course.
mess. He created a mess with special relativity, and that lasted more than 100 years to confuse people. Because they're easy to control, and it creates a deficit at the same time, and the central banks love that.
Yeah, wasn't it Poincaré or Poincaré? I can't say his name properly. That actually came up with the equation and not Einstein. At least that's one of the theories.
Poincaré. He
Yeah,
came up with the E equals MC square. He came up with the term relativity. He came up with the gravitational waves, and also the one who originated the a way to predict the stock market mathematically. The guy was a real genius, very smart, not only in physics,
I've
but
never heard of him.
there you
Yeah,
go.
no,
But a patent clerk that's sitting there reading it
Yep.
claimed
Yeah.
the fame.
Yep.
Gee, go figure.
So what's going on, Gerald?
Not much. How's everybody doing?
We're pretty good. Waiting for the big solar event tonight.
Yeah, the big solar event.
How is it in
I'll probably
Winnipeg?
through it.
There's 5 CMEs in the last 24 hours. So, yeah.
Did you see
we should-
anything in Winnipeg?
Yeah,
Joe?
that's quite a few.
Yeah. The last one was around 4 in the morning, and that was a X 3.43, which is not huge, but then again, it's not small either. So,
Did this start like around Thursday?
No, it started earlier than that. It started around Monday or Tuesday of this week,
Oh,
and
really?
it just kind of ramped
It's
up
like
by
midweek.
Thursday. Yeah, by
Midweek,
Thursday, yeah.
I had a bile dump midweek this week. Probably that's when the solar flare was doing that.
Yep.
You know what a bile
But-
dump is?
A bile dump?
No?
No.
Yeah, when you shitting water
Oh, gee. Okay.
in little chunks, that's bile. Could
That's
be
not
green,
good.
could be brown, could be clear. Billy Rubin is green. But you want it to be clearer, the better. Yeah, these solar flares will trigger a bile dump. Make you feel all crappy.
Well, they'll make you feel like edgy, and I've heard a bit of dizziness. Yeah, so it can affect our nervous system because, like Eric Dollard was saying years ago, that the sun has huge effects on the human body. So when the sun goes into solar maximum, which we're in now, that it actually makes us, in some cases, it increases creativity, gives us more physical energy because we're getting the proper sun exposure that our body actually really needs. So, yeah, so the sun does affect humans and animals. Anything living is affected by the solar exposure, right? So, what do you got? Are you on? Are you out? Where are you, Gerald? Are you outside?
Sorry, I'm in my basement. While you were talking, this big, huge bumblebee just came in, so I caught it in the jar. I just wanted to show it. I gotta step out and go let this thing out.
That's hilarious.
I'll be back in a minute if you're still on.
Yeah, no problem. An uninvited guest, the bumblebee. Mike, what do you got on the floor there? You got what, a Newman motor going there?
Yeah, that's that 350 ohm coil.
Right. So, did you set it up like the Newman motor, or?
Yeah, it's a high impedance coil. Isn't that what Newman's using? A high impedance
Yep.
coil.
Yep.
So it's 350 ohms. This guy here, this coil's 350 ohms, and I got 24 volts is what I needed to put into it to get it to.
So, what are the
fluctuate.
numbers? What are the numbers you're getting on it? Input and output.
I'm going to build a stator coil around the rim here, because if you see the magnet.
Yeah, I posted a few
back and
few
forth
really
like
good
that.
videos. one on Floyd's suite. I found out some interesting stuff on Floyd's suite because John Bandini was at his house when all this stuff was happening. So I'll talk about that later. But
so this one side is north, the other side is south, and the double pole relay is flipping the polarity of the coil. It's one coil, one winding.
how much torque? How much torque are you getting out of it? Is it giving you quite a bit of torque?
Well, once it spins, it does get quite a decent amount.
Yeah, they've been known to be torquey motors. Even my Renegade's torquey.
I mean, it's still holding 24 volts. Was it 24?
Yeah, the higher the voltage you put in it, the better. You should be putting like 50 volts in that thing.
That's yeah, I plan to.
That's what I've been.
See the capacitor bank.
Yeah, like the Renegade, I put 50 volts in it. I if I go lower than 30, it's not even worth it. So I just recharged one of my battery banks, the big one, and I got 50.6 volts in that. So I'll be running the Renegade with that. Yeah, in Newman's motors, you got to run high voltage. So he was running 250 to 400 volts. But
yeah, I gotta put these magnets in. I just want to see if I can get it rotating first, and then now I got a epoxy coat these magnets onto the shaft before I increase the voltage because
they're gonna start spinning. Yeah, exactly. I want to build a Newman motor, but I have to get access to a huge amount of copper wire. If I were going to build one, it'd probably be at least 50 pounds. Then you'll start seeing some pretty interesting effects with it. But like he said in his patent that he put out, that you're supposed to have minimum 270 pounds of copper. So
yeah, I mean that's 5.5 pounds of copper.
That's 5 pounds, yeah. So yeah,
overall
270
piece.
On the what's that, Joe?
Like that's your overall weight for the whole thing?
Yeah, 5.5.
Okay, that's cool.
The coil, just the drive coil.
Yeah,
it's 5.5 pounds, and it's 350 ohms, a gauge 28, I think.
Gerald.
Feet.
Yep.
Gerald, we have a new cast member here. He actually lives very close to me. Zach, this is Gerald, and I think you two would hit it off pretty good with your coils. He's really into the coil design.
Hey, Zach, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Tired. I just got back from a big catering job, but I'm alive, and that's a good thing.
Yeah. I want to show you
what you're showing there. You got a Taurus going on there.
Yeah. I'm kind of working with.
I'm gonna maximize your screen there. All right.
So yeah.
Oh yeah, 3D printed. That's nice.
But it's a golden ratio difference.
Yeah, that looks pretty sweet.
Yeah, there's a tiny one, and then I fill it all in with magnets, all imploding, and fit probably a bismuth core coil in this one, and then they get wrapped kind of like this one.
Interesting.
I'm gonna try a big one with the flat braided copper wire.
Is that the ABBA design?
I don't know. I haven't seen this idea anywhere other than maybe like super ancient artifacts.
There's a few designs out there. I don't know where like your design comes from. I'm not saying they're your design, but similar, right? That's what gave me the idea. That's why
I've been looking for similar designs. What was that? ABBA?
Yeah, the ABBA coil by Daniel Nunes.
All right.
It's not. It's a little bit more intense than yours. It's a little different, and it doesn't have a core the way yours does. That's very interesting.
Yeah. ABBA. Sorry, what was the last name?
Daniel Nunes, the ABBA coil. ABBA. Just like that. Just how it sounds, sort of thing.
All right, I'll check that out later.
Yeah, it's not, like I said, it's not your design. It's just, it reminded me of that. That's all.
Yeah.
And his is an open core. You have an idea for a bismuth core. That's very interesting.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna try different ones, but I'm definitely a fan of bismuth because you can, as it's dry or as it's cooling, you can have a really strong magnetic field or a tuned magnetic field, and it crystallizes in that form.
Yeah, in that polarity sort of thing when it's drying.
Yeah, it's kind of like
cooling,
because it's diamagnetic, so it has a strong interaction with it.
So are you using a signal generator to fire it, or how are you doing that?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with like kind of what you were talking about, a pulse motor eventually, and some, no moving parts kind of versions, more like the bifilar stacks.
You might want to know what you might want to try, because it's really high frequency, is if you get a plasma ball or a plasma tube like I have, and do the Don Smith conversion, you might be able to get some interesting effects. I'm not sure what would actually happen, but it would be a cool.
I asked the person if they could make me a tube like this, so I can put magnets all around it and have a little camera and coils around that. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm just gonna step out for a quick smoke. Just carry on the conversation. I'll be back in 2 minutes.
No cigarettes for you, Mike.
Actually, I want to go outside. I want to go outside and see if I can see anything with the aurora. So I'll
it's
come
supposed
back.
to go all the way down to Tennessee, right? Or somewhere
far,
around
right?
there, maybe.
I thought it was only about New York and Ohio area, but I could be wrong.
Oh, that's craziness either way.
Okay, I'm gonna go check it out and I'll report back.
Sounds good. I wasn't here for the first half hour. How's it going, Phil?
Good. As you know, I did my little presentation on startup, so I was talking about my company is gonna be financed. Finally, I found some investors, so that's pretty awesome. And I'm gonna,
awesome. Good for you.
yeah. So stuff is gonna get serious, and also I was talking about the speed of light. That they teach us that the speed of light is the same for all frequencies, which is not true at all.
Nope, it's not.
No, and I showed a video. Maybe I can show it again if you want. It's pretty cool. Just one sec. I'll share it again.
Mike may have to be there for you to share. I don't know.
Yeah. Can you see my screen right now?
No.
No, yeah.
Yeah, I think Mike has to give permission for that.
Yeah. So anyway, I have evidence, and the mainstream is saying the mainstream detects that there's a difference with a supernova 7.3 billion light years away. They detect there's there's a time shift between different frequencies, but they just brush it under the carpet, like, and then they say, oh no, that's that's
I'll say what
incredibly.
everybody wants to say, what everybody's thinking, but doesn't really want to say. Mainstream's full of shit. Yeah, that's me saying it, Gerald. Just so that everybody knows.
Yeah, I'll put the video in the link.
So hey guys, Gerald,
Mike.
I started this thing at 24 volts, and now it's reading 25 volts.
Nice. Are you backbeating it through, through your
Yeah.
circuit, or
Yeah.
what's that? Oh yeah, you got the Newman circuit running, don't you? Or did you do something different with your pulse motor than he did?
No, the flyback is going back into the capacitors. I'm sorry, no, wait. The flyback is going back into the batteries.
Nice.
And I got the capacitor bank running the circuit.
That's even better.
So the battery, the same battery, is filling the capacitors. But can you see the red light? Oh, no.
No, you're not sharing anymore. Mike has to give, I think, well, there you go. Well, I can see your something going on there. Oh, there we go.
You see the capacitors?
Oh yeah, I see the red light. Yeah.
Hold on. Yeah, you see the red light?
Yeah.
Okay, the red light is the charging of the capacitor.
All right.
And the blue light is the switching speed. Hold on. And the I don't know, but it started at 24.
Oh wow.
It started at 23 and 24. I just started running this thing. Maybe the magnets. You see the magnets down there? Yep. I think it's possible because one's north, the other south, right? The magnets north and south.
Yep.
This coil, maybe it's picking up the magnet passing because the north is here and the south is here, and it's over the arm of the coil. It's passing over. See, the north is passing over this arm, and the south is passing over this arm. This is the drive coil, but nonetheless, this coil is feeding back into the battery with the flyback diodes.
Huh? That's certainly possible.
You get what I'm saying there, Gerald?
I do. I totally do. It's like
I'm saying that the magnets, maybe the magnets is adding to it, not the actual flyback, but the actual pass of the magnet over the drive coil, because the drive coil is diodes coming out of it into the battery.
I don't know how you have your diodes set up, but every time you're switching your field,
no, they're coming. Okay, they're coming out of the. They're coming out. This is the double throw relay, so it's got two pole throws coming, two pole throws, and the diodes are, there's 4 diodes, 2 for each set of poles. So every time the flip happens on the relay, so right now it's contacting to the left, it disconnects and it flies back, then it contacts to the right, it disconnects and it flies back into the battery. When the relay disconnects, it's in the middle point. It's not charging the coil at all. It's just disconnected. That's when the flyback happens into the battery. But I didn't have this kind of a little bit of a bolt rise there before I had the magnet on the shaft until today. So I'm thinking that the passing magnet is passing over the drive coil, and that's adding an extra volt maybe to the system.
Yeah, because you're switching fields.
Well, it's a north and south array. This is not a monopole. This is north and south. So the relay is flipping the polarity of the coil. It's one coil, and it's flipping the polarity of the coil.
Yeah, no, I get that. I totally do. And you're getting a
So
spike.
that's why a north-south magnet is spinning so easily. But then again, you know the right-hand rule with thumb.
Yep.
I mean, that shouldn't be true if this thing is spinning the way it is. That doesn't apply, because
Okay,
this is one coil wound one way, and if I flip the polarity, it should still keep the same polarity because of the right-hand rule, right? Or am I mistaken?
The Newman motor does one of those things that makes physics questionable in certain ways. Let's just say we've been taught to look in one direction when the truth is in the opposite direction. So maybe you're onto something, Mike. Maybe you should keep on that.
Don't forget to. I got a news flash here. There was another major X flare just happened about 6 minutes ago. 5.89. 5.89. A 5.89 X flare just ejected 6 minutes ago.
Okay,
Is that like X-rays? Is it like X-rays?
Well, it's a coronal mass ejection. So the sun just spewed out a huge amount of charged particles, and those charged particles are now racing towards the Earth.
It just puked a cloud of energy, and it's gonna smack us in the face.
Yep. That's exactly what's going on. So I went outside. If I look in the northwest of me, the sky's turning a greenish blue.
Oh, I'm gonna have to go out and have a look soon.
Yeah, look north and north. With you, I would. Yeah, just look in the northern sky.
I think I'm gonna turn my coil on soon, just because of all the CMEs.
Yep, you might want to do that.
See what kind of comes out, right, voltage wise. I did a weird wiring thing, and I'm not understanding what I'm seeing. I think I know what I'm seeing, but you know how when here, I'll give you a quick pic here of the coil. Can you see these pickup coils on the outside?
Hold on here. Let me give you full. Hold on. Let me give you full screen here.
We lost Joel.
Oh no, we got him. He's there. He got knocked off there. You back there, Gerald? Hold on. We lost you there for a second.
Yeah, I'm still here. I don't know what happened, but hey.
Yeah.
The CME.
Yeah.
And the solar flare.
Okay, so right here, they're ferrite cores wrapped with 120 wines of copper. 28. No, actually 26. So what I've got going on here, these are full wave bridge rectifiers, but I've got one wire going to the AC part of this full wave bridge rectifier, and this here is two LEDs. I don't know if here, I'll see if I can get in there. So I got two LEDs here, and they're tied together in opposite directions. So
okay. Oh yeah, right. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, so that you can see AC or DC, right? And if it's DC, it's just this one. And if you flip the polarity, it's just this one. And if it's AC, you should be able to see a pulse between the two, right?
Yep.
So when I run this coil, they turn on, both of them, on all of them.
That means it's going in two directions, not just one direction.
Okay, but now I've done the 60 hertz. It's still, it won't turn on at all. It's not fast enough. But when I go into high frequency because of this, they all turn on.
Right.
So my guess is that I'm showing scalar wave. Like you said, it's going in both directions. But how could it be when it's just going to a full
see, Don Smith was doing a similar thing where his power cable that was coming from the battery to the inverter.
Yep.
He said if you got that wire close enough to the device, that the emissions coming off the coil that he had running would actually recharge the battery. And the way he was able to test that is what you said. You put the two diodes and you flip them. So you got positive to negative and negative to positive. You put the two together, and
Yep.
he says when you hook it back up, he says you'll get both lights coming on. One's charging it while the other one's feeding the system.
Okay, so that's what's happening all the way around, all
Yep.
at the same time when I feed it one pulse through my primary. Okay. But it's only from one wire. It goes to the LED, and then it goes from the LED to the bridge rectifier. It doesn't go across the bridge rectifier.
Okay.
So it's like the one wire system, but at the same time, like you said, both both turning on. I was gonna do
That's
a demo,
cool.
but I got home too late, so I'll do a
No,
video.
no, that's cool. No, it's cool just to see your setup there. That's really interesting. I've never seen that coil before.
That's
That
just
probably
stage
took a.
one.
How many feet of wire is that one? That must be huge.
It's 750 feet one way, and it's 750 feet the opposite way.
Holy cow!
Is that one coil?
How much?
Or two?
Yeah, so it's 1,500 feet roughly. I don't know if you can see it's beveled, right?
Right.
And
Holy
then
cow.
it's sitting in epoxy. Yeah.
3, 6,
And I
7, 8,
still
9,
get
10.
power.
How many
around
pounds
the
is that?
What's that?
How many pounds the thing weigh? What, 10,
I
15
think it's
pounds?
only no, actually, it's not that much. I think it's like 7 or 8 altogether. But that's
it's
just
still-
the coil. Altogether, maybe about 10, 12, like you said.
What's
Yeah.
the center coil? Like a generator, and the outer coils are the stators?
Yeah, this is a bifilar wound system on geometrical sacred geometry. It's basically I capture
What's your
every
drive?
bit of the back EMF. The more I put in, the more I get out. And it creates spin in the center. There's no coils in the center because this is only stage one. Stage two, I'm already in the process of, it's almost built. And then it's going in a big solid glass jar that I showed you guys a couple weeks ago. And you'll get to see this whole thing operating. Without moving parts, it's going to charge about 10 batteries all at once.
Wow.
I've already done the tests. I'm just putting it in a case and making it all proper.
Yeah. That's really cool.
750 feet.
Yep.
Just
750 this way,
one.
750 that way.
Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
pretty beefy.
It is. It's
Looks
one
like
of
gauge
my,
23 or something.
sorry?
Is it like gauge 23?
It's on the inside, it's 23
it's
and
two
22.
20, oh,
And
I
the
was
wheels
right.
are 26.
23 and 22, and 26 is the pickup.
Yep. 120 wraps on the pickup coil.
Nothing in the center? You're not going to put pickup coils in the center?
Nah, that's stage two. That's something that's coming. You'll see a
Yeah.
pickup coil, but it's not this. It's a little different than what most people would consider a pickup coil. Think of a tuning fork and a pickup coil and a spark gap mixed together.
It's interesting.
So yeah, I wanted to do the presentation tonight. I apologize to your audience and to you guys. I couldn't get it done. I had lots of catering jobs this week, and I've just been so busy. So
It is what it is.
it is what it is, but it's coming. Okay, as you can see, there is progress.
No, you from what I see,
Rectifying it into capacitor.
from what I can see, you have a lot of patience.
Yep, I have to, because this isn't an easy job. I've been doing this for about 12 years now. I've made over, like I said, 175 different coils based on sacred geometry. it started with the Pythagorean theorem, and
You
then
might as well, Gerald. You might as well just buy a warehouse, man. Move in it. Just blow it up.
well, hey, let's just say Nikola Tesla. He was
I'd like to
starting
have a
to
small
go
warehouse,
this
man.
route before he ended, like before his life was over, and he understood what vortex mechanics is all about. And Tesla knew a secret that what I believe, and I'm going to state this now. Hopefully, I don't get you into trouble, Mike.
That's okay.
Um,
I got
that
big shoulders.
the wires. How can I put this without sounding like a total woo? Okay, so here comes the woo. Okay.
Okay.
So all your wires that go between cities, and they say it transports your energy between power plants to houses and this, that, and the other. I believe those are used as antennas. They're pickup systems.
Sure, there. That's what
Yep,
Dollard was doing back in the 70s.
absolutely.
He was using decommissioned telephone grids, and that's what he was doing his experiments for earthquake detection. He was using it to listen to the earth.
Okay, so
And
I'm gonna shut my camera off here
Yep.
because it's hard to hold it up over this coil. Yeah, absolutely. I believe that your transfer lines. I guess I'm brain farting right now. It's been a long day, but I believe those are like antennas, and because they go from above Earth and they ground, all you would need is a capacitor within that from the above Earth to ground, and you can collect the power off that capacitor
Yes.
all day long.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because that's exactly right. Because know who was on that? Was Bruce De Palma with the End Machine. And
Yeah.
there was an experiment done. It was called the Tether experiment done by the space shuttle. I think it was about 2 years before they decommissioned it. When they put that stream out behind the shuttle, it got blasted.
Oh,
And it
it's
got
so much power.
It got blasted. It fried.
Okay, so here's an experiment. Hopefully, we won't get kicked for this. You get a post or a tree. It's got to be up at least 21 feet. And then it has to be, you have to have another identical one 36 feet away from it. And you have to have insulators. You tie copper cable between these two trees or two posts, whatever you're using. It's got to be 21 feet in the air, 36 feet long. Then you ground that line through a capacitor bank, and you can collect that power from the capacitor bank all day long. You'll fill batteries, you'll light lights, but be careful because there's a lot of power coming out of that. The way that you have to hook it up, the safe way to hook it up would be to wire your two posts and then wire your capacitor bank to the line and then wire capacitor bank to the ground so that the capacitor bank fills up as a spark gap rather than you grabbing your line in the air and then the ground
Yeah,
out.
well, that's what I did with the plasma tube. So with the plasma tube, it puts out about 2.5 kilovolts, right? So I take that with the collector and I dump it into the high voltage bridge rectifier, and it has to be high voltage, otherwise a regular diode bridge is going to blow up on you. So you got to use the ones for like microwave oven transformers. You got to use those very heavy duty diodes to make it work properly. And then from there, I dump it into a capacitor. And then from there, it will go to the light, and I can light up. I was top actually because of the solar storm happening. I was able to get my thing charged up to 130 volts.
That's awesome.
Yeah, 130 volts coming from a plasma tube. So, yeah. So you can take that. You can take that and actually put it through a pulse width modulator, like a signal generator with a good heavy duty MOSFET. And then you can pulse it at 60 hertz or whatever, and you can do other stuff with it.
Is that what you mean by plasma tube?
Yeah, I got one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just got mine last week, so I've been actually not last week before I got it. So yeah, I just put a 3-inch tube around it. Now, the big mistake a lot of people do when they do this experiment is they put their coils and inductors or capacitors directly on the tube. You're not supposed to do that. That's the biggest mistake everybody makes.
Yeah, you'll burn it out.
No, well, not only burn it out, it shorts out. You lose
Oh, yeah,
power.
okay. That makes sense.
So, yeah.
So what would you use? You'd wrap a piece of tin foil around the glass and then put your coil around
here,
that?
I'll show you what I did. Hold on.
Okay.
Bear with me here for a sec. Then you can
Yeah,
see
because
what
you
I did.
inspired me to do that experiment, and that's why I pulled this out of the box and went, you know what? I'm gonna ask Mike some pointers and do that.
Yeah. Oops.
Why not, right?
Why not get like a thin type of material, like a chain
So
material?
I got the tube there, so you can see that all right.
Yep.
All right. So this tube here is 3 inches in diameter. I wrapped tin foil around it, and you put it over top. But if you look at the top of it, there's a 1-inch gap all the way around. That's what you want.
That's actually like one of Tesla's little secrets. Old Man Builds figured it out quite a while ago, and
Yeah.
nobody's really talked about it. But yeah,
See,
a center
that's how I
post.
do it. Yep.
That's an amazing idea. So what, do you put your coils around the tinfoil, or you just collect that as a capacitor?
No, that is a capacitor. So I can build off this and put a dielectric and then another piece of aluminum foil, and I can build off it, make it as big as I want. And then I dump it into the high voltage bridge rectifier. And then from there, it goes to my 200 volt, 140 microfarad capacitor. And then I can light the light up with it and get 130 volts consistent.
Nice. What are you putting in? Do you know?
I put it up to the watt meter, so the input voltage is about 7.5 watts.
Woohoo, that's nice.
And I'm lighting up to light up that bulb there. It takes 9 watts.
Huh, that's interesting.
Yep.
I like the whole plasma interaction thing. I wonder if you can tap it a little better. There was a guy. Go ahead.
I'm sure you could. Like, it's all in the capacitor design, right?
Yeah, like there was a guy back in the 2016, 2015, somewhere around there. He took a plasma globe, and what he did is he wrapped it kind of like yours. He put cardboard, and then he put tinfoil around it, but then he wrapped copper around the tinfoil, and he used that as an inductive load, and he was pulling out mass amounts of power. I can't give you numbers. It was a while ago.
No, I imagine he could. As soon as you get the capacitance there, right? It's how much charge you can hold because it's emitting the flux around the tube, right? So you got this mass forming around the tube. Now, if you're able to grab it and hold on to it, like what you're saying, then yeah, you're going to get a lot more current out of it too, and capacitance. And then all you have to do is rectify it and then dump it into a stack of capacitors. So now, because it's high frequency, it runs around the 40 to 45 kilohertz range. Your cycles are a lot faster, so it'll be able to keep up with the draw coming off the capacitors. You can keep them full. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, it's really intriguing. That's why I've been working on it, because I see real potential with it. Because right now it takes 7.5 watts to run it, and it takes 9 watts to run that 60 watt bulb. It's rated at 60 watts in regular incandescent, but it only takes 9 watts to run it. So I'm already over unity with it. So that's 7.5. Yeah, so I'm already over unity as it is right now.
So you figure if you could increase the capacitance, you'd be able to go even further.
Even further, yeah. I would have to probably put more lights, otherwise I'll probably blow this one up.
Nice.
Yeah, I might be able to do a stack of lights. Yeah, so it's all in the collector design. As soon as you get the collector design, like really good, and be able to. So I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna start doing layers. So I got the first layer, then now I got to put a dielectric on it. Then I'm gonna put another layer, and just do it maybe 4 layers and see if it increases my potential output and current.
Like capacitor plates, like increasing.
Yeah,
it.
it's
Yeah, okay.
yeah, exactly. It's a capacitor. Yeah, it's an open-ended capacitor.
Yeah, I ended up doing after I watched your video, I did tinfoil and copper around it.
Yeah. Yeah, make sure it doesn't touch the tube. It's got to be
Yeah.
about 1 inch away from it. Yeah, it's very important not to touch it. So yeah, I would try it out, Gerald, because I know you got the resources to do it. I would try it out. I think you would be pretty successful with it.
I'm definitely gonna try it out. I mean,
Yeah,
like
you
I
got
said,
the tube
I pulled that lava lamp out, and I'm kind of excited about using it. Oh wow, the top just popped off. That's kind of neat.
there. I hope it did light all the gas out of it.
No, just the here, I'll see if I can show you. Just the plastic cap came off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. See if I can show you the wiring I did on my alternator generator.
Here, let me put you on full screen here. Give me a second.
So that's the we've got, they're for 3 separate battery banks. They
Right.
come from 3 separate alternators that's run below. I can't show you the open box just yet. This is just a sneak peek. I'm not really ready to show you. I mean, look, I got a cable holding on here. But my camera sucks, right? That's why. I got it working today at a fluke. That's why I'm trying to show you guys as much as I can right now, because I haven't got my new camera. So, but yeah, that's 3-wave bridge rectifier. It's the little motor controller. It goes to a treadmill motor, and then it goes to 3 separate alternators, and each alternator goes to a different brain. So these are MPPT controllers.
Yep.
So anyone who's working with alternators know this. When you're trying to pull power out of an alternator, you can use an MPPT controller to run a battery bank of 48 volts off one alternator, because the MPPT is the brain.
Yeah,
It's
it knows. It regulates the power going in and going out.
Absolutely. So
yeah.
I've got 160 amps goes into this big boy here, and I've got 120 amps that goes on this one, and 120 amps that goes on this one, and they each go to 3. Go ahead.
So you're off the grid?
I'm not quite off the grid, because they look at you when you're off the grid.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my furnace and my hot water tank right now, that runs on the grid.
Okay.
So, I mean, I charge this thing twice a day, and I'm happy.
Yeah. And it took not very much to actually run it.
You know what? It takes a little bit of power, I won't lie. The treadmill motor sucks some juice, but the amount that I'm getting out in comparison, I don't know, you could call it an amplifier multiplication system. Nah, you couldn't quite call it that. I wouldn't call it over unity, but I'd call it really, really efficient.
Yeah, it's cool.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, so that's my part of my little presentation there.
Well, you can put like a breaker switch on your mains coming into your house, and then at certain peak hours of the day, you can shut those mains off and just run off your over Unity system or whatever system you're using.
You're not wrong, actually. It's called the transfer switch, and I'm gonna be getting one.
Yeah.
But I have a really big project that I'm completing that has to do. Well, there's 2 big projects I'm completing, but one of them has to do with the coil that you've seen, and the other has to do with a life-saving system for anyone in the middle of butt-fuck nowhere, or for that matter, for the military, police, or fire department to help save lives. So it's a big project. It's coming really soon, and it'll be released on this channel.
Right on.
Yeah.
Cool.
So there you go. That's my little presentation. Hopefully the camera keeps going.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the alternator wiring setup. I'll show more on it in the presentation. I'm gonna do a whole thing because
Yeah, that's cool.
there's one other thing that I haven't talked about that could help a lot of people save money for their bills during the winter, and it has to do with heating. But I'll unveil that later. So
Yeah. One thing you can do for a hot water tank outside, you can get a tank and have it, make sure it's steel to start off with. You can buy those parabolic mirrors, and you use the sunlight to heat up that tank. So now you got free hot water from the sun. Those parabolic mirrors are incredible.
yeah, I have a Fresnel. I have one of those Fresnel lenses from a 60-inch TV, and it works the exact same way.
Yeah, it's parabolic. Yeah.
Yeah, you can heat metal up with that.
Oh yeah. No, but it's amazing because you can have hot water. Say you're living off the grid, and have one of those mirrors faced on a tank, and you don't have to worry about the water freezing, or even help protect your pipes from the pipes freezing, because that could cause huge amount of problems.
I don't know if I mentioned this on your channel. I know I've put videos out on my channel and talked about it in a few lives, but I have a grow room, and in the grow room I have a panel that sits on the wall, and I have water that runs through the panel, and it runs to the hot water tank, preheats the water. Now I've figured out a way of running all my hot water for free that way, because the grow room gets really hot in the summertime, and I can pull a bunch of heat out of there by running a secondary hot water tank. But I still want to keep my first hot water tank on the grid. I don't want them poking around.
Know what's good about the hot water? If you heat it up over 100 C's to like almost boiling point, it's also good for water purification. It'll kill all the microbials, anything like bacterias, and actually sterilize your water. So if you're off the grid, you can take that water after it's boiled for like 20 minutes, funnel it into a cooling tank, and now you have fresh, fresh drinking water that you can drink.
And I can get it to that heat very easily.
Oh, with those mirrors? Oh, yeah.
Well, my tomatoes don't like it in the room, but they, you got to heat your water. You got to heat your water, right? Actually, no, the panel on the wall is insulated, and it's got plexiglass on top. So it gets to like 120, somewhere around there. Tubes get a little bit soft at that rate, but I just run cold water.
But the other thing too, think about this, Gerald. You can make a heat exchanger, have the tank say on the roof with the mirror facing on it. Say it's like 200 degrees. Siphon it down because of gravity; it'll just go naturally. Put it through a heat exchanger, and now you got heat for your house.
Oh, that's true.
Put a fan behind it. Boom! You got a heat source for your house in the winter.
You're not wrong.
And
it would work amazing too. You can take that heat and put it to a Peltier and turn it back into electric.
Peltier, that's the problem with Peltier devices. They're number one, they're very expensive, and number two, they don't really put out that much power. They really don't.
Really?
Okay, so you're kind of touching on what I'm going to be releasing, but it has to do with heating your house in the winter, and nothing to do with Peltier.
Yeah.
Well, the Peltier can take the heat, turn it to electric while you're heating your house.
See, it's something like that. Let's say you can take solar and turn it into direct heat and heat your house.
Yeah.
Your whole house.
What I would do for that is take a thick piece of iron and paint it black.
Did you know you can use
iron thick?
You can use a device that has a temperature potential, like a difference in temperature, and it can create electricity, something like that.
Yeah, thermoelectric motors. Yeah, the thermo motors. It's on the tip of my tongue.
Heat
I got
pump.
a brain fart.
You get a heat
Yeah,
pump? Is that what-
yeah, like a heat pump. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought about putting a heat pump in this system. That might actually work really well. See, right now I'm growing food. I've got onions, tomatoes, and carrots growing. And it in the wintertime it supplements the heat from my house. It heats my hot water. Well, preheats the hot water for the hot water tank. But it also cleans the air in my house. Because all those plants, they suck up all the whatever you call it, the contaminants in the air, and it literally just gets fed through them, right? Because your plants breathe that stuff. So my room's completely contained. It's negative pressure. You guys know what that is?
Yeah.
So negative pressures, the room is completely sealed and it's sucking more air out before you can replace it. So the walls, they suck in a little bit because they're sealed with black and white plastic 8mm.
Really?
So it acts like you're on the inside of a vacuum cleaner, and you don't get any bugs on your tomatoes. You don't get no molds. There's no moisture problems. Nothing.
Yeah,
And you
because
go around.
plants they inhale carbon dioxide and they
Yep.
excrete oxygen.
And if your room is built properly, you'll never get mold. You'll never have any issues in your house. And because it's negative pressure, you could define where that excess heat goes. And that's why it helps heat the
Interesting.
house.
You would have to
So it's
So that it's
have
an
a lot of
actual
sunlight.
formula. Go ahead.
Lulu, your sound is really breaking up.
Can you hear me now?
A little better.
Yep.
Yeah, I was saying for that room, you would have to have a lot of sunlight or artificial light to, keep the plants growing.
Yeah.
Producing oxygen, right? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm using right now because they're just starting out and they're young. I'm using 400-watt metal halides, 2 of them, and then when they kick into flower, I use 1,000-watt HPS and 2 400-watt metal halides for the different light that it gives off, because metal halides are a light blue and high pressure sodium are more of an orangish reddish. And because you get the 2 spectrums, your plants just grow like mad. So yeah, I am putting energy into the room, but I'm also, like I said, supplementing my house heat and my water heat, and I'm cleaning my air. So it does cost me, it's $62 per 1,000-watt per 30 days. So it's $120 for,
Yeah, that's a
2
lot.
lights.
It adds up real fast.
Sure it does, but I'm also growing my own food. It's
Yeah.
not right. So it's a
Yeah, it's a
formula.
trade-off.
Yeah, it becomes really efficient in the numbers when you get everything out of it. If I was just to grow my own food, it wouldn't really be worth it.
Oh, Gerald, you should start spinning water. Start doing structured water.
Oh yeah, for what? The
Yeah,
plant?
for the plants. The plants will feed off it a lot better. They'll absorb the water a lot better.
Well,
So
what I just did is I just clipped a bunch of clippings for the tomatoes. I'm cloning them, right? So when their roots start, I've wired 5 pots for electroculture, and I have
Yep.
5 pots with no electroculture. And
okay.
I'm going to do that experiment. So with your suggestion,
Yep.
If I could put together a spinning magnet thing for water, maybe I'll do another 5 pots and
Or
see
just
what
buy
the
a
free difference would be.
yeah, just buy a small pump and then direct it on the outside of the container, and just get it spinning to the point where it makes that tornado, and then
Oh
let
yeah,
it spin. And let it spin for about I would say 2-3 hours, and then put it on the plants right away, right after you shut it off. And you'll notice the plants will start absorbing the water, and they will need less of it.
Well, I've never tried that, so that's an interesting experiment. You know
Now,
what? I might actually incorporate that to this
now,
next.
do an experiment for me, because the guy that I got this technology with, he did extensive experiments with it. He actually had a university test this water. He put the control in a lidded room and the experiment in a non-lidded room. The one in the non-lidded room had the special water, and the one in the lidded room just had the regular control. The one in the dark grew faster with no sunlight. No sunlight. It was in the dark. It grew faster than the control.
Well, I have a lot of space, and I have a growth.
Just try it with this. Do it with a couple plants. You don't need to do a big test. Do a couple plants, 2 as a control. Put the other 2 in a closet with using that water, and see the growth rate. Who wins?
That's an interesting concept. I've been meaning to do a couple of the electroculture tests on video for the last while.
So
I had a batch and it went wrong video wise.
So if the electroculture is working, still use it. Okay. What I'm saying is, if you can prove that the plants will grow better in the dark using the special water, okay, then what you do is now you can shut your grow lights off, and you'll still get a better result using the water.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But I wonder though if that's relative to what plant you're using, and
apparently apparently he tested with many plants. He had a guy actually lives on in a trailer park, and he had quite a bit of space, so he had a whole table set up, and they did this experiment, and they were finding that the ones in the dark using the structured water were growing faster than the ones that were in the grow lights using regular water.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, I know structured water is supposed to help the growth, and it's supposed to be South Pole structured water, I believe.
Yeah, you can magnetize it. You put magnets all the way around the container, all right? And you spit it for about, it depends on how big your container is. It could take a day to spin the water properly, but put magnets around the container. South facing in, north facing out.
You guys are describing what I'm working on.
All right.
I'm working on everything you're talking about with vertical hydroponics.
Nice.
So when the water pumps up, it goes through all South Pole tube of magnets and comes down the planets to use propellers for the like 5 ratio vortex propellers for the water, and magnets around the base.
Both of those things are key components.
And even keeping the water warm, so thinking of it like a water heater, having the
actually I was told by the guy that did all the research on this. He says it has to be cold. Keep the water as cold as possible. Yeah. And he says after it's finished and you bottle it, do not put it on the ground. It has to be on a crate or a wood surface of anything, anything non-conductive, and do not put it on the ground. The water loses the charge.
Yeah, you're building charge in the water, and you'd instantly
right, exactly.
Well, that makes it easier.
Yeah.
Well, document your stuff, put it on video. That's the best.
Yeah, that's the thing I gotta do. I gotta do the non-special versions as well.
Yeah, and the more people that do these experiments, the better, man. The more info we can get out to the masses on this stuff, that's awesome.
Another thing, Dan Winter, I think, he was finding there's specific frequencies for photosynthesis. So if you pump those, that's the other thing I was going to do.
Yeah.
Pump those.
That's what I had on mine. I had a signal generator with 2 transducers on the stainless steel container. So the stainless steel container was actually making it into a speaker.
I think mushrooms really respond to that even more.
Yeah, 5.
If you wanted to see a response, you do it with mushrooms.
Yep. So
And you'd be able
if
to
you're
see it.
gonna,
You see a quicker response than you see with a plant.
yeah, if you
Or
do the
maybe
frequency thing, 528 hertz. That's what you use.
mushrooms are like water intensive. They're crystalline life
There's
forms
only
also.
there's only one other plant. You're right, Mike. There's only one other plant that I know of that responds better, and that's the marijuana plant.
Yeah.
Good old Mary Jane.
Yeah. I'm just gonna
So
zip out for a quick smoke. I'll be right back.
Mike,
absolutely.
before you go, add my screen there, my share screen.
Yeah, he wants to show the
No, I
minimum.
can't. I don't think I can. No, I can't. Oh, I did. Okay. I had problems
There you go.
earlier.
We could see your
Gerald, that's
meter
the
now,
voltage
Mike.
on the cat bank right there. It's not dropping.
No, it keeps
I mean-
fluctuating between 25.5 and 24.5.
You know why I think? You know why I think it's not dropping? Like it's not really dropping dramatically. Well, first of all, it's a 350 ohm coil. It's only using like I believe 60 milliamps on a 24 volts divided by 350. Yeah, 68 milliamps. So
That's low.
that's not nothing though. You would see a drop more than this.
Yeah. No, you would see a drop. Like it wouldn't go up to 25 and then fluctuate back down so quick.
Well, hold on. This is not the battery voltage. This is the capacitor bank voltage.
So that's your running voltage? Like
Okay, now the
your-
battery is filling up the capacitor. See the battery,
Yeah.
there's two transistors triggering the battery power over to the capacitor bank. The other transistor is switching the relay to run the pulse motor.
Oh, okay.
So the
Well, you know, a
battery
relay-
is just tapping the negative to the positive is jump, and it's
Okay,
a
so you know
24
a relay
volt
is like-
charge to the capacitor.
So
bank.
a relay is like a spark gap, you know. It acts
Yeah,
like a
I mean, I'm
spark.
sure there's some sparks going on there, but for
That's
68
perfect.
milliamps, you would see this drop. You would see a
You
drop.
have everything you need in there. Like that's perfect. You have the you have like your Tesla
I got the
coil.
wheel spinning right now too, and I'm not even harnessing that.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a formula, man. That's
I don't know. I don't. Well, anyway, the flyback is going back to the battery.
It looks
So
like
that's
it.
well, it sure is. Both flybacks on both pole flips. One coil now, one winding. So you don't think
And
there's
that's
two
your-
coils here? It's one winding being the polarity being flipped on one winding.
Like you should be depleting your voltage, not going
No
up and
kidding.
down.
So
Yeah.
I guess the flyback's helping to prevent that. But
See, well, that's the thing right there. That means it's running on its own. Now, if you can collect excess energy from another coil, you're above your
oh yeah, I got room on the shaft for another set of magnets, and I'm gonna try to create enough lens to slow down the wheel without actually stopping it.
Well, if
And
there's enough
then-
torque, you can use that for a lot of different things. Because you're essentially
Right.
you have a very efficient motor.
Well, it doesn't seem to be pushing the battery up any higher. It just seems to be holding it 1 volt over its voltage. The battery
Yeah, but
voltage.
that's enough though. That's all you need.
Whatever the battery has, the capacitor bank is going to fill up with that voltage
So your
On
your
a-
spike
on a
brings
pulse.
you up. Yeah, so your spike brings you up to 25.5 or whatever it is.
Right, that's
And
what I
then
think is going on,
it's-
right?
Yeah, and then it gets drained and then it goes back up because you keep getting your spike, right? That's awesome. That you know what? That's in resonance is what that is.
Well, the spike is only hitting the battery, not the capacitor bank.
yeah,
It only
because
hits the
you're drawing-
capacitor bank it only hits the capacitor bank when the capacitor bank is receiving charge from the battery. Then it's
Yeah.
connected.
because you're drawing your from the
At
battery.
that point,
to-
maybe that's what some of the spike is hitting the capacitor bank at that time.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, no, it is definitely. Well, but only
Yeah,
when
You know what?
it's
you're
charging,
creating-
and then it disconnects. It disconnects. So
Yeah, you're
let me
creating a
put the
slip
camera
flash.
on.
Hey, you're creating
Here.
a slip flash like a swing.
Look, the red
Back
light.
and forth. Yeah,
See the red LED?
Yeah.
That's the charge of the capacitor bank from the battery.
Oh, that's
And the
pretty
blue
cool,
LED
Mike.
is the switching speed. So
That's pretty cool.
when that red LED is off and the blue is flipping and creating flyback, the
Yeah.
battery is receiving the flyback all by itself.
What are you
But
using?
when
Two
that red
LED?
LED is on, when the red LED is on,
Yeah.
and there's a flyback event with the blue LED, then the capacitor bank receives part of that flyback. Okay.
So that voltage
maybe
go
that's
down when
what's
the
going
red.
on.
Hey, does that voltage go down when the red light's on or off?
Which one? The capacitor
On the
bank
meter.
voltage?
Yeah.
That's capacitor bank voltage.
Okay, so that goes
I
down
can
when the
put
red
it on the
light's
battery voltage. Let me put it on the battery voltage. I'm going to switch it to the battery now.
Okay.
Not the capacitor bank, but the battery.
Yeah.
Let me take that off. And it's a 24 volt, 2 batteries, 12 volts together.
Yeah, of course. In parallel.
Series.
I'm tired, man. I'll figure
There's
it
the
out one
battery.
day, Mike.
Look, 26.
What the hell, eh?
That's 12. Well, they both had a little over 13 when I started, so I'll just leave it there, see what happens. But it's definitely more efficient than your traditional
Absolutely.
motor, your regular motor that you can buy. It's just going to use a lot more power.
Well, if you got torque on that shaft, there's a lot you can do with it. That's pretty cool.
Right, and that's not even being converted to power at all.
No, that's just running.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah,
I think a lot of
those
people.
magnets are not even glued or nothing. They're just sticking to the iron shaft. If I go any faster, it'll probably fly off.
you might want to fix that, Mike.
Yeah, that's
I'm
one
gonna
thing I
leave it
learned.
cool.
It's one thing I learned building pulse motor. Make sure your magnets are all really good.
Yeah, you got to secure them.
I have a
That's
question.
okay for the
But you know what though? The magnet is passing the drive coil. The north side and the south side is passing the drive coil, the 2 arms of the drive coil. And that drive coil is not receiving charge when that's happening. Because, let me explain something here. I thought about this. I think you guys need to hear this. The pulse happens when it's in the center. You see that? When it's here, right?
Yeah.
That's when when the drive coil is receiving energy. So that's where the pulse happens. Wow, it's not even moving; it's balanced. Oh, that's good. So, but when it passes here, right there in that point, you see that?
Yeah.
See how the 2 sides of the magnets are touching the arms of the coil?
Yep.
Or they're facing the arm because the field is coming out here and here.
Yeah,
you know?
it's oscillating.
So that is the drive coil. But at this point in the cycle, when the magnet's here, the coil is disconnected from the capacitor bank.
Yeah, that's when you get your spike.
It's disconnected from the circuit and it can be charged. And then when it goes here, the coil gets connected again to the circuit.
A whole quarter turn.
You get what I'm saying or not? Did you follow that?
Yeah, totally.
See,
right.
I did. Okay.
All
to
right.
add
That's
something.
what I think's going on also.
Okay, I can add to that. I did an experiment with my motor this week. I was able to get into self-oscillation without the motor running at all. So it was pulsing the light, but the wheel was not spinning. So what I did was to start it, I passed the magnet really quick and then stopped the magnet from going further. And then as soon as the magnet came off the coil area, it went into self-oscillation. So it wasn't even triggering the spark gap switch. It was open.
Wow, Bendini
So
talked about that, or Bedini.
yeah, it's very. I've done it many times. I actually did it with a coil setup that didn't even have a wheel. So all I did was put the magnet on top of the coil, and I just pulled it off really fast, and it put it into oscillation to start blinking.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You guys watch?
Yeah, I've actually experienced that once too. Yeah, that happens with the bifiler, right? There's a bifiler?
No, just single wire.
Oh. You had a core.
Does not.
You had a core.
I had a core in it. Yeah, so I just put the magnet on top where the core was and just flicked it off really fast, and that started the oscillation. Yep. Since you flick the core, it starts oscillating on its own with no transistor, nothing attached to it.
No transistor. Just a
no
spark
transistor. No, not even the spark gap without it. I did it with just a coil, the light attached to it, with a power source, and then I just flicked it with the magnet. I flicked it with the magnet, and I got the coil to start going like this.
You activated the first pulse.
Yeah, all you have to do is once, and then as soon as you give it that first pulse, when it starts flickering, you know the back EMF is what causes the next flick.
The next pulse. The next
pulse. That's right. So it basically what you have. Well, what you have is
an echo. Echo.
Well, yeah, it's like an echo.
You use the echo to trigger your next signal.
That's right. So basically, what you have is a closed tank circuit, and because the coil has capacitance in it, right? So if you got the right light with the right amount of ohms resistance, you could get it into self-oscillation. And I found out what that number is. It's a 4.5 watt LED bulb, and it has just the right amount of ohms resistance to cause that reaction to happen.
Okay, but that's just for your system because every resonant system has
right.
its own.
So have a range of lights and just do that experiment, and chances are you'll find that right light that has the right amount of resistance. There's a sweet spot. When you find it, you'll go into self-resonance on its own.
Oh yeah, you'll notice when it hits resonance by far.
Yeah, and I did it with the Renegade device this week, actually unintentional, and I got it into resonance, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. I did that a while ago without even a wheel attached to it. So the wheel wasn't even spinning on the Renegade. It was just the light start flickering on its own. And the spark gap switch is open. That means there's no power coming in from the battery.
That's crazy. Cool.
So the battery isn't being used. So what I've done essentially is created a closed tank circuit, because if you have a big coil, and the one I used this week, I swapped coils for the 2-pounder. If you got 2 pounds of coil, that has capacitance in it. So that will give it just enough you need to sustain that oscillation. Now that oscillation could go on for quite some time. I've done it.
Doing. That's like ringing. That's what Tesla was doing, and that's also what
Floyd Sweet was doing.
Scallon was doing when he says "ring the bell." So you'd ring the bell and create the resonance, and then just collect off the resonance.
Yeah, and Floyd Sweet, I've seen an interview with Bendini. He did a 1-hour lecture about what Floyd Sweet was doing, and he says the Floyd Sweet, the VTA device, is an electret.
Ooh.
Yeah, electret. Where have we heard that before?
Yeah, that's interesting. I know a little bit about electrets, not too much. I'm still working on something. I don't want to talk about it until I know more. It's kind of one of those.
We keep hearing that phrase, but what electrolyte, or what does it really mean?
No, it's called electret. Electret. Yeah. So it's
I've heard the phrase before.
Yeah. So what it is, it's a piece of material. They in the olden days they used to make it with beeswax and a whole bunch of different dielectrics. And what it does is you zap it with high voltage, and what it will do, it will hold the electrostatic charge. charge, like a capacitor holds, the static charge that comes in from your circuit. It's doing that with static electricity on a solid state device. So they call that an electret. And apparently Bedini, after all that stuff happened and years later, he basically, looked at all the notes and he says that device had to have been an electret. And he was doing that with the number 5 barium ferrite magnets.
Yeah.
So he would heat the magnets in a toaster oven to 160, and then what he would do, he would zap it with high voltage in a coil setup. You would drop it in there and zap it. That caused the magnet to go from zero magnetism into an oscillation.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then after he achieved the oscillation, that's when he put it on the device, and it would take only microwatts of power to keep it going. And he was getting huge gains.
Because it was technically oscillating all the time. It's just you put a little in, give it a kick, right?
Yeah. And then he had the crisscross coils, right? And those crisscross coils, one was the trigger, and the other one was the power. So the one that runs horizontally, that's the trigger. The power coil is the one that goes vertically. And then you got the magnet on top and the magnet on the bottom, and it's south poles facing in and north facing out, which I thought that was interesting.
That is interesting, actually. Might be able to use that.
I got that link in my community section for that video. There's a lot more to the story. I recommend everybody watch it. It's about it's just over an hour long, but he even started doubting who Floyd Sweet actually was. He had an incident where Floyd had to take his wife to the hospital, so he drove him down because Floyd didn't have a license at that time, and he drove him to the hospital. And when he checked her in, he says, "Oh yeah, this is my sister."
Blind though.
Huh.
Not his wife. So he was even.
What does he have? How's he gonna
No, he wasn't. No, he was in his 80s at that time, and
he's blind. He's blind. Floyd Sweet is blind.
Well, probably near the end, he was probably getting impaired. But for whatever reason, he didn't drive very much. So, but kind of weird.
Since he was a kid.
Didn't he have those magnets in attraction mode?
No. South poles facing in, north facing out. Yeah, a lot of people got that device totally wrong.
In that video you shared, he was showing it like pulling together, but it's not like that.
No, it's not pulling together. It's now south poles going in, north facing out.
Huh.
I thought it was. I thought they were pulling in. They're not. So
it's one
I watched.
Right?
No, it's two. One on the top, one on the bottom.
Oh, okay.
Now those magnets are almost impossible to find now. Unfortunately, they're 4x6 and they're about 3/4 inch thick, ferrite number 5s. It's a specific magnet. So apparently you can get them in China still, but they're very expensive. So yeah, there's still a lot of mysticism around Floyd Sweet. What I got out of that whole video when he was talking about it, that I think because he said when he walked in the room when the device was already working, he said he smelled ozone in the room.
That's
and possible. No, actually not. His device, technically, you shouldn't smell any ozone. There's no electrostatic discharge. Now, at the back of the room, he said he had a power converter with 2 plates on it, and he wouldn't let John check it out. He wouldn't allow him near it. I had a feeling he was using some kind of ion breeze or like an ion air cleaner of some kind that was throwing magnetic flux in the air. He might have been a fraud.
Oh. Yeah,
like a
that's
like a that would like a plasma tube. If you run it long enough, you'll smell ozone in the air. If you look at his device, how it was working, there should be no ozone whatsoever.
huh.
That
I
comes
think
from that comes from a plasma or having that ozone smell comes from an ionic air cleaner or a plasma ball. Those are the only
Okay,
two
well,
devices.
you know what? Here's the thing,
Is
though.
it?
With my geometrical coils, if
Right
I push them too hard, I get ozone. It's one
now,
of the
do you
reasons why this
do,
coil was put in um, epoxy, because I was having breakout at like 12 volts input.
were you getting like electrostatic discharge at all?
Yeah, I had 4 or 5 small little bright balls on the
Yeah,
bottom of the coil show up
right.
like
Yes.
as if they
Yeah.
would break out from the
Yeah.
wires, right?
Yeah, that's totally understandable because you have to have a spark in order to get ozone.
Yeah. There was
Hi-
ozone.
Yeah. So his device apparently should not have had any ozone because the wires were insulated enough.
Huh. That's interesting.
And he wouldn't let John take a look at that converter he had at the back of the room. It had 2 metal plates on top. I think that's where the electrostatic charge was put into.
He was cheating.
Yep. I think he might have been a fraud. That's my
That's
opinion.
that's no
That's
fun.
that's my opinion. But you know, there because he kept everything to himself. Like he showed his papers, and everything was proprietary and close hold. So he gave John one set of instructions how to do the device, and then when Bearden did it, they were totally different.
Huh. Yeah, that could be fraud.
So that for me that rings bells.
We lost Lulu.
Oh yeah, it could be the storm. Could be that solar storm
It could be.
because
Um,
people.
Go ahead.
Yeah, people have been dropping in and out all night. So
Yeah, she's backstage. She must have dropped out.
all right, there she is.
So I hate
Sorry,
to do
I
it to
got
you again.
knocked
Oh,
out.
there you are, Lulu.
Hi, I'm listening. I got knocked out of the. I was trying to share something with you guys, and then it just took me off of StreamYard.
Oh yeah, that happens.
That happens.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's happened to me.
yeah, it even happens to me too.
So I have to bail on you guys a little early tonight, and
Oh,
then yeah,
well,
so
yeah, we're almost at 11 here, so yeah, that's cool, Gerald. You shared quite a bit with us tonight. That's cool.
Thank
yeah,
you.
I wish it was the full kit and caboodle. So I'm hoping that I'll have it done by next weekend. The whole presentation, and you'll
Yeah,
get to see everything I'm working on. So
right on.
that's what I'm shooting for.
All right, sounds good, man. Thanks a
All right,
lot for everything.
everybody. It was good talking to everybody.
Thank you.
All
Yeah,
right, take
okay.
it easy.
See you, Joe.
You guys have a great week.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Take care.
Bye.
All right, we got Bernie here. Mr. Bernie,
Bernie,
what's going on? Your mic
microphone
is off.
not working.
Hi, Bernie.
Hello. Sorry, joining late. Much love. Was listening. You guys, awesome stream.
Yep.
If anyone's up for it, I think I'm going to do another one as you guys are ending, and I missed it, but great work. And
Well, we'll do a little bit of overtime. I can go a little overtime tonight if you want. If yeah, did you have anything you wanted to show us, Bernie? Or
I still got to get the information together here, what I was going to present, so it's okay. Don't worry.
what did you think of the Don Smith plasma ball thing I did? The plasma tower.
Like it. I want to see some more of it. And interesting with the ozone aspect you were saying.
Yeah, it doesn't. Well, the plasma balls and plasma tubes do give off ozone. If you have them, like I got 2 of them now, so if I had them running for about half hour, probably definitely smell some ozone in the room. Definitely. It creates a really large. It creates a pretty big discharge of electrons in the air, so it does charge it. You know, you
What
can
does it
pick it up
smell
with
like?
a meter.
What does it smell like?
Ozone. You know, when you turn your AC on in the car
Yeah.
and you have that weird smell. Okay, that's ozone.
Right? It's like it's specific weird chemical.
Yeah, it's a gas.
Yeah.
And electricity is a gas. A lot of people don't know that. It's fluid like water. So whenever I develop a circuit or I'm trying to figure out what's going inside, I would say, okay, if this was water, how would it move? And chances are I get it right, because if you understand fluid dynamics, and that's what Tesla was talking about a lot, is he believed it was a form of gas, right?
Or plasma too,
What's O3?
essentially, right?
It is a gas, oxygen. Liquid if you compress.
Well, it moves. It acts like a gas. It acts fluidly like water. So, you know, it has similarities in the properties from those other, you know, elements, gas and water, and how they flow. So,
Right,
I
like
find that help.
key
Go ahead.
component being fluid dynamics are
Sure, it is.
part of the
Yep.
physics.
Well, yeah,
Sure.
I mean, it's water. Oxygen can be a liquid with a hydrogen. For some reason, it turns to a liquid when it bonds to a hydrogen. It's like those type of questions people don't really know how to answer. Why does liquid form when you bond two hydrogens to an oxygen? Like, if someone could come up with a simple answer for that, we'd be well our way into the future of real science, of like
Well,
broad science. That's doors will open. When a simple question like that is answered. It's not that simple to
Also,
answer.
yeah. Also, I think I saw an article at some point. I didn't read it, but there's a state beyond plasma.
yeah, I heard that too.
The fifth plasma is the fourth state. Then you got the fifth state of matter, which is the
Right.
ormic.
Or
That-
Well, that's the
ether,
fifth
right?
state.
Potentially.
In a sense,
yeah.
it's the same thing. Ether is like a single
The ether, yeah,
energy
ether
particle,
could be the,
atomic,
yeah, ether
a
could,
monatomic energy, like a single article of energy.
I could see the ether being the fifth state of matter. Yeah.
Plasma has dimensions, though, right? Like we could say,
yeah,
that
it's
the size
fluid.
of mass has, but what would be the next state? Would it?
Yeah, the thing about plasma, it has multiple dimensions. All of the dimensions that known to geometry for one, and then some of the unknown geometries, which are probably out there. Yeah, we know a lot of shapes. We have our list of shapes, but I don't think that's all of the geometries. But plasma does take the shape of all the known shapes, for sure.
Yeah, like Eric Dollard, he had a really funny kind of take on electricity. He goes, you know what, we have to go beyond it, because he looks at electricity kind of like the sewage of the ether. And all the people in the room, their mouths are just hitting the floor when he's saying this, right? Because he said that Tesla was aiming towards the sewage of the ether. That's what he was calling. He says we got to go beyond that, and he said that Tesla was, in his later years, kind of was going in the direction not from an energy type system, but a power based system, meaning plasma, high voltage, like that, in that state, a power type system, not an energy based system. He says energy based systems, there's limitations, like electromagnetism is one of them. You can only
How do
go
you
so
discern
far.
between energy and power, though? I mean, where is the discernment between energy and power?
Well, power, with power, when the power happens, it always is returned at the end of its cycle. All right. So when you transmit power, you'll always return back to itself at the end of the cycle.
And the energy is what then? If it's not the power,
Energy
voltage?
is anything that's
Potential?
voltage, potential using transformers, stuff like that. That's an energy-based system. So he's talking about something that's more like a dynamo type thing. See if I got that recording here. Maybe I can find it.
I have a question. Like the electricity that runs in the house, right? Like normal home. Can they read that data when it goes back to, or does it just stop at the meter and they don't have the zeros and ones or the AC alternating current or whatever is passing through the lines? Does it register?
What I
on
understand,
the way out?
they don't really read the amps as much as you think. They average that out to.
No, I'm asking this from a more deeper, question.
They read
Like,
it. They can tell when you turn the switch on and off. That they read the clicks. There's clicks in the line when
okay,
things are turned on and off.
all right, could they read like what device I am plugging, into the wall? Because now, these devices all have barcodes, all have a serial number.
They don't read. They don't read that. No, what they do is they read the demand on the load. So when you plug something in, it has a load amount, a certain amount of load to it, and that's a demand on the grid, and they can read that demand. They can tell what kind of load you just plugged into the system.
But
and
not
then
specific.
if
Not
you keep
specific
turning it on
device.
and off, no, let's say it's a heavy load equipment like a heavy motor, and you leave it. You turn it on. They can tell when you turned it on. They can tell when you turned it off by the demand on the system. It's a load. It
Yeah,
creates
but what
a
it's
pulse.
pulling, the electricity that it's pulling, that current, it's gonna create a space because there's a device that's eating this up like another cycle in the current. It's
Yeah,
adding
well, what
a
I
cycle.
understand though is the grid. What I understand though is the grid is counting the number of devices you have in your house, billing you by the number of devices you have in your house, and based on the load each device creates by the reading of the click that the load creates on the grid. It creates like a pulse. So they do more billing by that than they do of the current going through the meter.
But
They
then
actually
this would
bill you
then this
more
would
on
be
the.
an idea. Then this would be an idea to actually create a grid, a
Let me say
digital
one more thing,
grid.
Noel.
Okay. I got
by
that.
knowing that data. Like you could like know a person exactly what like machine they're using. Like if like somebody's on a computer or somebody's watching a TV or somebody, like do you understand like especially active devices? Not your light switch.
Yeah, they have they
those
have
are not like
specialized
active.
equipment.
Yeah, that's like the
equipment reading a grid.
equipment.
Here, I got this recording of Dollar talking. Just listen to this for a second.
Okay.
So there's a lot of energy just sitting here.
You can get rid of those clicks with capacitors and save money on the
problem
grid.
is, if we try to harness that energy, then how is it going to influence
Those
the
are the
environment?
energy-saving devices. That's how they work.
Or causing eddies, or see, this is the flaw of the concept of energy. Energy is a flawed concept. I keep pointing this out. The human race really needs to go beyond energy. And this energy is always, it's like the sewage element of the ether. And it's a bad news deal. And it's no matter what you do, it's still energy. Whether it's rabbit turds or coyote turds or cat turds, they're still turds, and they're still going to stink, and maggots are going to breed in them. So this is my idea of energy. There needs to be something to go beyond energy. And you're talking about using power. Well, Tesla was aiming for a power-based technology rather than energy-based technology, because all the energy is returned at the end of the cycle. I can take a 12,000 volt power line, and I can put a 1 amp or 1 ohm reactance coil across that 12,000 volt power line, and I'm going to get 12,000 amps. 12,000 amps at 12,000 volts. That's a lot of kilovolt amperes reactant. The magnetic field is going to pull nails out of wooden ships. And the substation transformer obviously is not going to like the idea. But I can take a 1 ohm capacitor and put that across the power line. And that will pull 12,000 amps at 12,000 volts. But there won't be any external magnetic field at all be in the counter space in between the plates of the capacitor. But nevertheless, the dielectric inside the capacitor is not going to particularly like the idea. But if I take the two of them and I put them in parallel, no current's drawn from the substation. The capacitor feeds the reactance coil, and the reactance coil feeds the capacitor. And I have whatever 12,000 times 12,000 is bouncing back and forth at 60 cycles a second between the two reactances.
He's totally right about that.
But no energy is being produced or consumed. There's no energy at all in that system. Now, if you try to draw any energy from it, then it dies out. But nevertheless, that's a lot of activity. And there's no energy required to do that other than that to overcome the losses. So this is what Tesla was heading into, was more of a power-based rather than an energy-based technology.
So there you have it.
Yeah, he's right, but you know, as soon as you draw on it, you know, you're removing the reactants. You're transferring
because the systems we have today have losses, you know, and that's where you have to get into superconductivity, zero resistance, you know, like a superconductive type material. So, you know, that's where the science has got to head towards, is something like that. So how can we extract power off it without killing the dipole? Right?
If all the transformers were in resonance, we wouldn't have an issue.
Well, that's the thing, but you know, we know that most transformers, they're only about 25 to 30% efficient. They're getting better, but there's still losses within a transformer. So
you know what? The grid needs to build a tuning device to go in between transformers to keep them tuned with each other along the way.
It's funny you say that, because Dollard was saying that
like
that's
another smaller coil that you can adjust.
Well, Tesla, yeah, exactly. And Tesla had an extra coil added to his Tesla coil. He had a third coil a lot of people don't know about. And that's where he was able to control things a lot better and step down the voltage to a more handleable, you know, controllable power source. But, you know, there's always going to be loss in the system, irregardless. But I think that's where a lot of people should focus on.
You have to tune the frequency to the mass the frequency is being carried on.
Right. That's fine. That's fine. But there's still going to be resistance in the circuit.
Not if the frequency is tuned to the mass that the energy is being carried on.
Right. Now, how do you extract off it without... Well,
right now the grid is made out of copper, so the mass we're talking about here is copper.
Right. So what Dollard was saying is, if you get a bad harmonic in the high voltage transmission lines that feed all the power to the cities, he says if you get the wrong harmonic in, that's why you get a runoff inside a transformer, and that's why the transformers blow up. It's usually what will happen is a harmonic starts building up inside the transformer. And eventually what will happen, it will fail and blast. And I actually had one blow up on me about a year ago outside my my complex where I live. And it caught the tree on fire and almost caught the house on fire next to it. So when they blow up, they blow up. And that's because of that transient parasitic frequency harmonic that builds up inside that transformer and causes a breach. So, and Dollard's saying it all starts at the substation. If you can control that harmonic and get it into a proper
but that's
frequency,
a distortion effect. That's created from a distortion from not keeping the system in tune with the the circuitry.
That's right, and that's why Steinmetz came up with the dynamotor. Back in the early 1900s, he came up with a device called the dynamotor, and that was a mechanical.
No,
what's that?
I thought the dynamo was a bit older than that. No,
no. It was called the dynamotor.
Oh, okay.
It was It was a motor generator similar to my Renegade device. It was a rotating device that created a 60 hertz frequency using a motor generator design. It was called the Dynamotor. And they disappeared probably about 1940. They got rid of them and decided to go with, yeah. And when they did that, that's when all the problems started, because now they were getting parasitic frequencies going up and down the high voltage transmission lines. And that's why transformers on the pole
You think that
blow
started
up.
with that parasitic frequency? That started from a distortion somewhere.
Well, it starts right at the substation.
Right, somewhere there's a distortion. There's a non-resonance point.
That's right. So that means the generators at the substations are not controlled properly.
They're not in tune.
Exactly.
With each other, even.
That's right. They have to be in resonance between point A and point B, right?
Yeah, that requires a person, a real person being with ears, hands, eyes to monitor the three generators to running at different speeds and know how to slow one down and speed one up.
Well, what it requires is somebody that actually knows what the hell they're doing, and that's
three-phase,
yeah, you're using a three-phase poly system going up and down the transmission lines. It has to be controlled and modulated properly. If not, you're going to get a harmonic.
Right now, they use the Bitcoin miners to dump the excess when they need.
Yeah, it's the whole system. Dollard calls the power grid system. He calls it a terrorist weapon because that's what it is. It's a giant antenna.
Which one? The
and like, yeah, the whole power grid's like that, because in the old days when they grounded something, because there has to be a ground, right? And if you ground like all the utilities in your house, they all go to a common ground, which goes right back to the station. In the old days, they had grounding rods outside of each facility where the substation was, and also, the poles on the street where the transformers were.
They still got grounding rods today.
No, not at the poles anymore. No. Like say I live in an apartment complex, right? All
maybe not in
ground
Canada, but they do here in the States.
No, it's North America. It's all in North America. It's like that now, because there is no such thing as a ground. It's all common ground. That bare wire that you hook up inside your receptacle box inside your house, that bare wire is connected to every single unit on your block. It's a common ground. That's why they call it a common ground, because they're too lazy to put separate grounding devices for each house.
Well, actually, now the code, they require you to put, I think it's 3 ground rods instead of 2.
Well, yeah, that's the way it should. That's the way it should.
You have to put more ground rods than before. They increased the amount of ground rods.
Well,
in the code.
In the old days, they used to hook it up to your water pipe system. That was your ground.
Yeah. And then they added a code that you had to have a ground now. And now they increased the code. You got to have more than 1 ground. I think like 3 grounds. A ground every so many feet, I think it is. They decreased the amount of feet.
But, when it comes down to dollars and cents, that's going to cost more. And, the builders and the utilities want to keep it as cheap as possible. So they'll cut corners. Like Dollard says, they cut corners all the time. And you can't do it. It doesn't work. It makes everything parasitic. So.
Well, yeah, the copper ground rods used to be $30. Now they're like $60 or $80.
Yeah.
You can use iron as a ground rod also. You don't have to use copper, right? I don't know why they use copper for a ground rod.
Well, at that time,
better ground or something.
Well, it's one of the best conductors out there. Number 2, back in those days, copper was pretty cheap. Now copper's pretty expensive.
I mean, you have a choice. You can buy an iron ground rod or a copper.
Less rusting, I guess, as well, or oxidization.
easier to work with. Just more of it's in circulation, right?
Oh, you know what it is?
But
I think you're right. The copper is, yeah, you can attach more to it.
yeah, it's more versatile, right? At one point they were using aluminum wire, and that turned out to be a disaster.
What, for grounding?
Well, for power,
Really?
anything. Yeah, they were
Oh,
using back in the old days. They were using aluminum wire, and they were getting a lot of house fires, a lot of electrical fires because of that. And that's when they start switching over to copper, right? And now they want to get now they want to get rid of the copper piping in your house and go to plastic, which is a good choice, because the costs are too high with copper tubing, right? So, yeah, there's a lot of little things that could add up to one huge problem. The power grid is a perfect example of that. Just cut so many corners, and then it works against you in the long run.
Isn't copper a natural sanitizer for like
Yep.
germs? And
Yeah. You can. Well, that's why they
copper is
use
a natural sterilizer. It's sterilizing.
right, and that's why they used it as copper piping for the water.
You can't have kids if you got copper because they put the copper thing in women to stop them from having kids. What's it called?
IUD or IUD. But yeah, especially the oxidized
made out of copper, whatever that thing's called, for the women.
Yeah, the IUD.
It prevents them from getting pregnant. It's sterilized.
IUD.
You remove it, and the copper goes away. You can get rid of the copper with zinc.
Yeah.
And then get back your hormones again. Copper's not good for you.
Well, copper is good for sterilizing water, but water we can do a whole show on what they've done with water.
Sterilize copper, you boil it.
Well, no,
copper has antibacterial properties, but it also
with water
gets stuck in the liver.
Well, the problem is with most of our drinking water now is they put chlorine in it. And chlorine is terrible for the body.
Right.
Well, I hear the pineal gland likes to absorb all that.
They put in fluoride as well.
Yeah, fluoride and chlorine.
Yeah.
All that.
You can bump out the halides like fluoride and chloride and bromide. You can bump them out with iodine.
Yeah, but most people don't know this information. You know what I mean? Like, people just want to go to the sink and take a drink of water, but most of them don't even think twice.
There are UV rays filters for tap water.
Yeah.
I'm gonna buy that when I'm gonna have money, because it's better than the carbon Brita.
Yep.
Just
filters.
distill the water.
The problem is a lot of the filtration that they do, it also removes the stuff that's good for you, like all the essential minerals that are in water. All that gets removed at the distillation plants, that clean the water. They kill it. They kill the water completely. It's like when you get your water at your house, you have to filter it properly and add the appropriate minerals to that water so you're getting what you need. Anyways, guys, it's about almost 11:30 here. I'm going to call it quits for tonight. Thanks for everybody showing up. Thanks, Bernie, for popping in, and Gerald as well. We'll see everybody next week, Friday night at 9 o'clock Eastern. Bernie, stay on after we go off.
Okay.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Thanks a lot.
All right. Peace.
Good night. Good night.
What's up?